Greetings, my name is Monty Martin.
And I'm Kelly McLaughlin.
And we are the Dungeon Dudes. And we are continuing our deep dive into looking at all the class changes in the 2024 Player's Handbook with the Master of the Arcane, the Wizard.
We've gotten our hands on the 2024 Player's Handbook and have had a pretty thorough read through it. So today we're going to be talking about the various changes to the Wizard class. We're not only going to be looking at the changes to the base class, but also the different feats and spells especially that are going to impact how the Wizard plays in the 2024 edition. There's a lot to discuss today, so let's get rolling.
The Wizard has been my perennial favorite class through multiple editions of Dungeons & Dragons, and as always, the Wizard still boasts the largest spell list in the game, with powerful battlefield control and utility options, and that wonderful ability to be smarter than everyone else in the party, which is something that I always smugly enjoy.
If we do look at the big picture, though, for the 2024 Wizard, the Wizard has received a few tweaks, which might have Wizard diehards a little envious of all the changes that classes like the Warlock or Sorcerer got.
I'm not jelly, you're jelly. Yes, because ultimately the changes to the Wizard class are pretty small, but there's a few pointed changes to some spells that sting. But some of the most powerful and game-breaking spells in 5th edition have not been changed. Take from that what you will, because for some people, this will be music to their ears. For some dungeon masters, it will be a pretty big groan.
So first, let's talk about some of the changes to the base class of the Wizard. Your number of prepared spells is a fixed number that increases as you gain levels, as opposed to the previous equation that Wizards had to figure them out.
Yeah, it starts at 4 and caps out at 25 spells prepared, which was the same as having like 20 spells plus your int mod. But now it's just a flat number of things. There's nothing that's changed about how many spells that you, how you prepare spells. You still have your spell book. All that stuff is still the same. And you can change your spells out. You can actually change one of your cantrips during a long rest. And starting at level 5, you can switch out one of your prepared spells during a short rest. So you have a little bit more flexibility than before. But I find that what's interesting here is that the Wizards, when you look at a lot of the other spellcasters in the game, in particular the clerics and the sorcerers and the warlocks, they're actually going to have less spells at their fingertips than the other classes.
More spell options. But Wizards still have the biggest spell option.
Yes.
But yeah, the sorcerers, warlocks, and clerics have really pulled ahead.
Yes, but again, that's because those other classes are getting 10 spells from their subclass that is always available, or in some cases, less or more. We'll talk about those for those classes specifically. I was kind of expecting the Wizards spell schools to come with like, you always have these spells prepared, and
it would have been nice.
Some of the subclasses get those as features, and ultimately like things like signature spells and things like that are going to give you a couple extra ones, but it is going to be an interesting mix with how many you have prepared. And really, the Wizard is a class that their class features are their spells. Aside from getting expertise in one of the intelligence-based skills from their scholar feature, there's nothing really new here. And you got to wait till level 3 for your subclass now.
So yeah, they do have that new feature, Scholar, which does give them expertise in an intelligence-based skill of their choice, which, that's something. But let's move on to the feats. One of the great things about feats is that everybody gets an origin feat, so you can pick a feat right off the bat, and every general feat comes with a +1 to an ability score. So Wizards are going to love that you can take Telekinetic, Warcaster, and Elemental Adept, or another int boosting feat, and still max out your intelligence by level 12.
Yeah, previously, what I think a lot of Wizard players would do is I would be a variant human, grab Resilient Constitution, grab Warcaster as soon as I can, and then max out my int, right? Or you would wait later for those things. Now you don't have to choose, because Warcaster comes with a +1 to your int. Telekinetic comes with a +1 to your int. So I think for many Wizards, the play is going to be max out your int during point buy, get the +2 from your background into int, get the +1, so you got 18 int at level 4, and I think you're probably gonna grab Warcaster at level 4 with basically every wizard still, because it's with the changes to the way the feats work, I feel like it's a little bit harder to justify grabbing Resilient Constitution early when you can get Warcaster and both boost your int and make your concentration more reliable.
Yeah.
I would still pick up Resilient later, but that's probably the way that I would go about it. I also really like that as a wizard, I can take Magic Initiate as my origin feat from my background and get Guidance, Thaumaturgy, and I don't know, how about Healing Word or Bless?
So one thing to note about Magic Initiate now is you can take whatever you pick your class that you're taking from. It's got to be
Cleric, Druid, or Wizard.
Yeah, Cleric, Druid, or Wizard. But then you also get to choose what ability score you're using to cast those spells. So you can grab from the Cleric and make them intelligence based.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. This means that grabbing Guidance and Healing Word or Bless or whatever you want actually gives the Wizard right at level 1 when they choose Magic Initiate the option to kind of lean into the possible support healer role, especially in a party that doesn't have a cleric. If all you take is Guidance and Healing Word, that might get you through.
Yeah. You still might be tempted to take Lucky. You might or even Alert or something else, but I think that Magic Initiate's a pretty cool choice.
Yeah.
Now, when we move into spells, many of the wizard's essentials remain unchanged and very powerful. Shield, Hypnotic Pattern, still the same. Banishment looked like it was going to get changed during Unearthed Arcana, didn't change. Wall of Force, still the same. Simulacrum, still the same, except the Simulacrum can't make a Simulacrum. Contingency is still here, Demiplane's still here, Clone is still here, and Wish is still here. So the high-level wizard arsenal is essentially untouched, making the argument for wizards coming into their own at high levels still very, very strong.
A few other spells, too, in particular, that I'm really pleased to see get revamped slightly is Suggestion and Phantasmal Force. They haven't really been changed as much as they've been clarified, but there was a lot of back and forth on what the ruling was on Suggestion and Phantasmal Force in the 2014 edition. The clarification has aired on the most powerful way you could have interpreted the 2014 edition.
I know, they removed the line from Suggestion that the suggestion has to sound reasonable. And
you still can't hurt them?
Yeah, but the examples that they provide are literally like a suggestion to tell your enemy to surrender or a suggestion for the enemy to go get the MacGuffin for you.
Yeah. Hey, you have a crown in there that I was trying to steal. Can you grab it for me?
Yeah.
And so this is great. I love this. Suggestion was always one of my favorite spells, and it feels even more like a Jedi mind trick.
At the same time, there's a couple ouchies. Counterspell is nerfed. And it's going to be nerfed in more ways than one. Because, first of all, the target that you counterspell gets a Constitution saving throw to resist it. This is a bit of a double-edged sword, though, because there's no point in upcasting Counterspell anymore. In fact, it doesn't upcast. So you might think that counterspelling that 8th level spell on the off chance it fails is still probably worth it. The thing is that when you do successfully counterspell somebody, they don't expend the spell slot anymore. So if it's a bit of a lose-lose for you, because they could still cast it again next turn and you expended your spell slot.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that with a lot of the monster designs that we've been seeing, we haven't seen the new monster manual yet, but I suspect that a lot of monsters are going to have abilities that look a lot like spells, but aren't actually spells and therefore cannot actually be counterspelled. And so I think that the reign of and now counterspell, because it's a con save, which is traditionally a saving throw that monsters are really good at, and that legendary resistance exists. Still, we can assume. So, like, as long as that's on the table, like,
it feels like a niche spell now.
Yeah,
like it's only going to come up a few times in your game, and when it does, it might fail.
Yeah, my saddest change.
Yeah,
or one out for Force Gauge, which now requires concentration. It sucks when your favorite spell gets nerfed. It's also my favorite spell as a DM, and I love it that it doesn't require concentration as a DM because it really lets you just totally throw a curveball at the players. And
Yeah. It's okay.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna be bitter about this one for a long time.
We'll get to my bitterness when we talk about cleric spells, but
Okay.
yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. There's some new spells. All the summon spells are here from Tasha's. They're good. There's a bunch of imports from Tasha's that are decent. Again, the kind of Blade Singer cantrips aren't here.
We don't have any silvery barbs in this
and
package.
there's no Vortex Warp here.
No, Storm of Radiance could be pretty good.
Yeah, Jalazi's. I think it's Jalazi's?
Jacuzzis.
Oh, the Jacuzzi of Radiance. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It does damage in an AoE, and people that are in it can't cast spells, and they're blinded. So that might be your new, like, I can't counterspell you, but I can throw you in this Storm of Radiance to stop you from casting spells and blind you while you're in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we move on to the subclasses, there's a few notable changes here. Evoker's Potent Cantrip is now at level 3, and it works on miss spells and saving throws. The greatest thing about this, for me, is Acid Splash, a average spell in the 2014 edition, but it's now a cantrip that has an AoE. It's a 5-foot AoE.
Yeah.
So whether you miss or they fail the saving throw, you can still use Potent Cantrip on it.
Pretty decent minion sweeper.
Yeah.
It switched places with Sculpt spells, so you don't get Sculpt spells till level 6 now, which is fine because that means that you have to deal with one level of having Fireball, but not Sculpt spells.
Yeah, that first level, you're like, oops, I keep trying to kill the party, and then you learn. You learn.
Yeah. The illusionist now casts all their illusion spells silently, which is, I think, what every illusionist wanted.
Okay, that sounds like such a small sentence.
Yeah.
The ability to cast an illusion while you're in a social interaction without anybody knowing that it's happening is pretty cool.
Illusionists can now also cast Summon Beast and Summon Fae, which are the Tasha's summoning spells, which turn them into illusions and make them spectral.
I think that's a fun way. So I'm always in the ballpark of like, how do I reflavor my spells to suit my character?
Yeah.
Really, all that's happened here is the illusionist told you how to reflavor the summoning spells to suit your character. Rather than a beast actually appearing, it's an illusory beast, which is fine.
The Diviner is still here in all their glory. And the Abjurer is also here, and they're able to refill their Arcane Ward with their own spell slots. I got to admit, I'm kind of surprised they didn't nerf Portent on the Diviner, but it makes it through unscathed. So I think that Diviners, there's a really interesting thing now where imagine being a human Diviner wizard with Portent. You take Lucky as one of your origin feats, and because humans get heroic inspiration, like they start
on a long rest.
So you've got Lucky to give yourself advantage. Like you've still got all that role manipulation, and it's even easier for you to get it all.
Yeah.
So I really quite like that. I'm curious to find out what's going to happen to the Necromancer, the Conjurer, the Transmuter, and the Enchanter in future things. I feel like you could still use them with the new rules, and I don't know if they're any more or less powerful. The Necromancer, like all the Necromancy spells are still here, and they still work the way that they always did. So that's still a viable option. I suspect that playing the Blade Singer with the new, like if you bring the Blade Singer forward and you use the new, like the Blade Singer backwards compatibility, they're really going to like stacking Blade Ward, Shield, Blade Song, and the new and using their old cantrips, but also being able to throw True Strike into the mix as well for them. They're going to really enjoy that.
I think as we come to our final thoughts on the Wizard, the Wizard, I think it was one of the most powerful classes in the game. And I think it is still a powerful class. The tough part is having read through the entire 2024 Player's Handbook. The changes that we saw to classes like the Sorcerer and the Warlock now, in my opinion, push them above the Wizard, which means that the Wizard feels a little nerfed overall, but not necessarily in a way that's going to like make us super sad. The spells still great. It's just when it comes down to the question, most people would say Wizard is the most powerful spellcaster in the game. Now that's debatable.
I wouldn't. I think that the one thing that I will say, and I've always maintained this, I feel like the wizard and the cleric are still the ideal beginner spellcasters. I feel that the wizard has less potential for making build mistakes with your character compared to the sorcerer and the warlock, because you've got that flexibility to change the spells that you prepared. You don't like the spells that you prepared, change them out. And so the wizard comes out of this looking like they are objectively like view from 1,000 feet up. It's just scholar. Like it's a couple little tiny tweaks, and they have expertise in Arcana. Like a handful of their best spells got nerfed, but everything else is kind of the same. But it's just that the wizard's relative position to other spellcasters is very different now, because the spellcasters that were much weaker, I think, have really been boosted up. And so would I still love to play a wizard? Yes. Are you still gonna have a lot of fun with it? Yes. You know, the guy with his girlfriend and he turns around meme. I feel like I'm walking there
holding hands with
the wizard, and there's the sorcerer. I'm like, oh man, baby. Yeah. Like
come to the dark side. Join the sorcerer again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Woo. If you are excited to play a wizard or have any thoughts on the changes to the wizard or the spells that they're going to be grabbing, let us know about them in the comments below.
The videos that we create on our channel are made possible thanks to the incredible generosity of our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the work that we do here on YouTube, please consider becoming a patron of our show by following the links right down below.
If you want to see us slinging some spells in D&D, you can check out our actual play in the Worlds of Drakenheim, which airs Tuesday evenings here on YouTube. You can check out all the previous episodes right up here.
And we've got plenty more videos covering the class changes in the 2024 PHB. You can check out the playlist right up over here.
Please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and ring that bell so that you never miss an episode.
Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time
in the dungeon.